Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Hi, Sid. I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to hear from you as you told me off air that you're enjoying my country, South Africa. So I'm hoping to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We probably can do a live together in person on the next month, actually. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I've actually done something like that because normally with the
Yeah.
phone and with the iPad, it's a bit tricky, but I don't know if you've ever done that before.
Well, you know, we'll try it out and see how it works.
Yeah, it's always good to try new things. And as
Yeah.
usual, it's always a pleasure to have you on today, especially on an interesting topic, the banking and insurance in Dubai and what the expats need to know. So, to get the ball rolling with you, Tammy, is how accessible are banking services in Dubai for expats and new residents who have just moved to the UAE?
So, banking services are generally quite easily accessible, I would say, for new residents, for expats, but it comes with a lot of conditions. And my initial advice to anybody is seek advice from the authorities, seek advice from a PRO. So, the first step is before you do anything, you need to get your Emirates ID. And what's nice is on your with your Emirates ID,
Hmm?
you actually have the if I could show you here, you actually have everything. You have something called the UAE pass. So on
Okay.
there, all your documents, everything is registered on your phone. And once you've
Okay.
got your Emirates ID, then and it's a fairly quick procedure to get
Oh,
your bank accounts done, to get your insurance done. Basically everything is digitized, and within 24 hours you can get everything sorted out, like your current accounts, your credit cards, if you're doing a loan, your mobile banking, and so forth. But there's certain things that are limited to expats, and are conditions attached to your residency. So like for new arrivals, they you would go for like a basic savings account. I know a lot of people struggle with this because you can't really get a check account immediately because you obviously don't have your first pay slip. So and
oh,
to get like a lot of people that are going there as expats, they go there and then you need your bank account when you're starting work, but you would go in as a standard savings account. You can't go in and have your check account, your bond account, or any of those kind of things. You have to start off with the savings account. Once you get your first salary, your first letter of appointment, you can then change it onto a check account or a transmission or one of the other accounts. Some of the banks, they do on letter of appointment, they do accept and they do give you the relevant bank accounts, but you sort of limited to the access of the accounts and like a full complement of services. Whereas once you are there for a few months and they see the money coming into your account, then you've got carte blanche to the full array of services. So it's widely associated to your Emirates ID and your proof of residence, your proof of income. So I would say, in short, Dubai is highly accessible and highly efficient once you're officially a resident there. But you can feel a little bit restrictive, especially when there's heavy documents involved. And, like, especially the first few weeks after arrival, it can be rather daunting to get all
mhm.
these documents in place. And the one thing that I needed as well is um, the letter of uh, damn it, your police clearance, the police clearance, which also costs you. I mean, in South Africa it costs you 140 rand, but in Dubai it costs you 200 dirhams, which is 1,000 rand. So huge differences. And if somebody's actually going to work there, and if the company is not paying for that, I would say have enough money, have a good buffer. If somebody has to tell you, have like 20,000 Rand as a buffer when you're going up there, I will say times that by five. That's what you need because these unexpected expenses come up, they crop up, and they can cost you a pretty penny.
Yeah, I want to check with you on the savings account in Dubai. Do you get like any interest like how you would get in South Africa? Because I know in the Muslim countries they don't get interest because it's not allowed. But like, how
No,
does it know?
certain
Mhm.
banks they do give you interest, but they've got restrictions there. So what they do is they charge you 25 dirhams per month. If
Oh,
so, you need to have a minimum of 5,000 dirhams in your bank account. And if you
okay,
don't have a minimum of 5,000 dirhams, they charge you a penalty of 25 dirhams a month. So, which is
okay.
like 125 Rand. Yes. So that they're charging you irrespective of whether so it goes into the minus, and then when money comes into your account, then it's a slap bang and here's a whole chunk of money taken out of your account. So you need to keep the account going, you need to have that buffer of at least 5,000 dirhams in your account.
I know, sorry, no. What I was trying to say, like, do you earn any like income on your savings account, like how you would do in South Africa, or like how does it normally
Yes,
work?
after a certain amount, after a certain base amount, you do earn interest.
Oh, because I thought in Muslim countries you don't get interest because it's haram there.
No, no, no. They do have, but as I said to you, it's certain banks, and they've got quite an
Ah,
array of banks. Yeah, it's certain banks that do offer it.
okay, cool. All right. There's a question for you here from Jitin Rishika. Hi, Tammy. When one leaves UAE, can the banking still continue from other countries?
Not to my knowledge. I know of a lot of people that actually have had the problem, and this is to everybody that's currently in the UAE or that's wanting to go to the UAE. What I would suggest is if you know that your work contract is coming to an end and you don't have anything else, I would strongly suggest, because remember it's linked to your visa as well. Whatever money that you have there and that you need to transfer it. So we have Al Ansari, and you can do it through the Botum app and through the Do app, where you can transfer money to South Africa and you've got easy access to that. I would strongly, strongly suggest that if you know your contract is ending and your visa is coming to a termination, because if your visa is linked to your employer and if it's being terminated, transfer your money immediately. Because what happens as soon as your visa is cancelled, because the company cancels your visa, immediately all the banks, everybody that is linked, that has got your EID, is notified and everything is stopped. So you, if you think, okay, you're going to save your money in your overseas bank account, you cannot access it. Everything is stopped for at least 3 months, 1 month to
Ah,
3 months, and you do not have access to that money. So the reason for that is before they actually release you from the country, they need to check that you don't owe Peter, you don't owe Paul. Everything comes out of that bank account before they actually release you. So if you think that, I know it's happened to some teachers as well, where they've had the money in there and they thought, oh, they can access it abroad. No, you cannot access it. They freeze the account. I've had a few people that, as you know, I've been in recruitment. I've had a few people that were left absolutely stranded, where they could not access the bank accounts once the visa is cancelled. And even when the visa is cancelled, every day after the time, if you do not renew your visa as a tourist visa or as a freelance visa or a new employer, you get penalties on every day after that visa is expired. So that also can come out of your bank account.
sure. What types of bank accounts and financial services are commonly available for individuals and entrepreneurs in Dubai?
So the common bank accounts, I would say, for financial services is
Mhm.
pretty similar to South Africa. You get your current account with, like your daily transactions. Then you would get your your
Savings.
savings account with interest generating. You'd get your fixed deposits, and then obviously your salary account. It's deemed as a salary account, and that gets linked automatically. It's not like South Africa where you've got to access or ask for the cell phone banking. It's automatic that you get the mobile application as well. That then for businesses, from my limited knowledge, you get the business, you get the corporate accounts, and obviously there's certain charges which are slightly higher on those accounts. So you get like your SMEs, your startup companies, and then you get your large corporate, your multinational, and for international trade. So the charges and the accessibility and the perks, I would say, are a lot more different for each type of bank account that you would go for. So, the additional financial services that they do offer are your business loans for like working capital, startup capital. If you want your foreign exchange, your trading finance. I know there was a Chinese guy that he came in and he wanted his money to be as the buffer, but he rather took a loan and they gave him like a trading finance to get his business up. Then you've got, like your credit and your debit cards, and they're very much into checks there. I know South Africa's long gone with checks. So I know,
Mm.
like when we were renting our property, we had to give them. So you rent the property out for the year, but you pay them in anything from one check, two checks to six checks. So you give them the dated checks in advance. So they still work with the checkbook there. So that's a different types of financial services that are, or banking services that are available to the people.
Awesome. How does the insurance system in Dubai work, particularly for health, property, and business coverage?
Oh, so insurance, I would say, especially health insurance, is a must because things can rack up so quickly, especially with me having, quite regular visits last year in and out of hospital, etc. Health insurance, I would say, is mandatory for every Dubai resident. And under the Dubai health insurance, there's a, I forget the law now, but there's a law that you have to have that medical insurance. And I know some people try to dodge it, and not, especially when with the lower income earners, your nannies and your house helpers, etc., where the residents try to avoid those type of things. But should something happen to that employee, you're going to be coughing out quite a pretty penny. So, yes, it is a little bit pricey to have the medical insurance, but if you can have a basic medical insurance, I would say it's absolutely mandatory to have that. What I like about the medical insurance in Dubai, I know a friend of mine 2 weeks ago needed to have an MRI. She waited an entire week to get approval from the medical aid and then from various entities. Whereas in Dubai, within 24 hours, you've got your approval. Yes, I know the MRIs can be very pricey. I've had three in 1 year and it was done within 24 hours. So that's the advanced offers that Dubai has when it comes to the health and the medical side. So, if you want to do a private medical insurance, I would say you'd probably need uh, about 150,000 dirhams annually. So, if you times that by five, so anything from 100 to 150,000 dirhams annually for your medical cover or your medical insurance. Then other types of insurance you do get the property insurance, but it's totally optional. There's not much of like how you would get in South Africa, which is your building insurance and the theft, etc. So the it's very limited for, I would say, the commercial properties and the apartments and so forth. So some of the the insurance, they do cover your risk, your theft, your natural disasters. So I would say that more of the weather conditions that can be covered there. And but in your building, in your apartment, they do it like if you've got a crack on the wall or so, something like that. And remember, the buildings there have a 50-year lifespan, so they're not going to look at like renovating a place when once it's reached 45, 50 years. They tear the entire building down and then they build something else. So I've not seen a big demand, a big hype around property insurance. And even with business insurance, I know from having a business there myself, there was not so much of a drive to say, oh, you needed liability insurance, public liability. But I guess when you have a larger staff content, then that's something that you would need to look into or to invest in. And like your workers' compensation and your property tax and so forth. So basically, the insurance system in Dubai, it combines the mandatory health and the which, yes, if you covered some of the insurances from other countries, they actually come and they covered worldwide. So they don't, there's no need for it. But even with that instance, you still need to pay up front and then claim from your insurance provider, your medical provider. So and there are a bit of regulations stipulated by the government, and it's forever changing. So if you are there, my honest advice is check what the government tells you, check what the authorities tell you, and just protect yourself all the time.
Awesome. What are the key differences between banking and insurance services in Dubai compared to countries like South Africa?
So I would say for like regulation and maybe structure. In Dubai, the banking and insurance is more regulated mainly by the central bank of Dubai, and then you have the free zones, and then the mainland. So those things differ. Whereas in South Africa, financial services here are just regulated by the Reserve Bank. So it's a little bit different there. And then you also get the free zone, you get the mainland, and you get the offshore. So there's different variations there, and you need to. I don't know 100% on how each one works, and as I said, they're forever changing, they're upgrading. So when you get in there, you need to know what you are in for. My strong suggestion is, a lot of people don't know these things.
Mm,
And if you're wanting to get the business, get the various insurance, etc., engage with the PRO services, because that's what they're there for. They know they're working with this on a daily basis, so they know the ins and outs, and they will guide you in the proper manner. In terms of your tax, whereas Dubai, there's no tax on your personal income, making banking, your wealth management, and for expats and investors, a lot more juicier, I would say, or more fruitful. Whereas in South Africa, we pay your income tax, your capital gains tax, and there's other tax, your dividend tax, etc. That especially like your pensionable salaries, etc., which does affect your savings. It affects your investments and so forth. So that in Dubai's terms, they're a lot more flexible, and this is why people actually can save a lot more when you work in Dubai. On the health insurance side, as I mentioned, the health insurance is mandatory in Dubai, especially for residents. Whereas in South Africa, if you are earning, I forget what the minimum wage bracket is here in South Africa, but if you're earning above that, it's mandatory to have some sort of medical coverage. And I have not seen in Dubai, like how we have your clinics, your local clinics in certain areas that you can go to if you don't have medical aid. I've not seen that in Dubai, where they offer the like sort of a government coverage. I honestly did not see that. I know a friend of mine, she was in a quite a dire situation where she finished working and then she went onto a tourist visa, but she did not take the medical insurance or the insurance coverage. And sadly, her son actually had an appendix operation, and she had to pay something like 200,000 rand for the operation, and they sort of hold you accountable. Some of the places they actually hold back your passport until that amount is paid. Luckily for her, she didn't have her passport held, but I've heard of some cases where they hold your passport back until that amount is paid. So rather be well secured, well insured, and you don't want to be caught with your pants down because it can be very, very pricey for you. There's also the Islamic finance in Dubai. I unfortunately don't know how that operates. And I know here in South Africa they are offering, I think it's the Al Jazeera, where they do offer the Islamic banking, which is your no interest, no fees, etc. Um, but it's less common here in South Africa than it
Mm.
is. So, in short, to sum it up, I would say Dubai. Your the advantage is your tax advantages, the international, the the Islamic finance there, which is more lucrative, and South Africa, we've still got a long way to go. And I know, like in South Africa, even your banking fees can be quite steep on certain
Mm.
banks, etc.
But then in Dubai, like, do they not have like a government type of hospital, especially for those that may not be able to afford the medical bills there?
I've not seen that. I've honestly not
Oh,
seen
oh,
that. And I know there was a instance where somebody on a Facebook group was saying that they didn't have medical insurance and they were reaching out to all the South Africans on the Safas group to please assist and to get the medical bills paid. So you are liable, you are accountable for all that happens while you're there in Dubai. So I've not seen a government hospital, no.
okay. What challenges do newcomers sometimes face when opening bank accounts or securing insurance in Dubai?
So I would say the newcomers, your residency requirements. Most banks require your EID, your Emirates ID. It requires a valid visa. So you would generally get your Emirates ID if you've got a valid visa, maybe a working visa, spousal visa, sponsored visa, a freelance visa, and so forth, or a business visa. So it that does pose a little bit of difficulty for newcomers to have all these things in place before they can actually get the account sorted out. There's obviously I mentioned before the minimum balance requirements is I think with the companies it's about 50,000 dirhams, and with the
Oh,
individuals it's I know some places, some banks, they have between 3 and 5,000 dirhams. So if you times that by five, it's a little bit steep if you compare to South Africa. Here in South Africa you can have a bank account, and you can have, I think, 100 rand or 20 rand or whatever, and it's still
mm,
fine. It's still
yeah.
operational. Whereas there, they charge you quite hefty. They charge you the penalty for not having the minimum in the bank account.
Mm,
There's also they have a strict compliance to certain documentations. You need to follow, especially if they I know it's called AMR, something about money laundering. I don't know what the A is. Anti money laundering.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the banks follow those very strict procedures where you need those documents to prevent AML, and they do the compliance checks and so forth. And then also I know when I had the business, I when we opened up the account, there was a representative from the bank that actually came to see, is this a legit business? Are you really, is it, like a shelf company, or are you really operating a proper business? So there's also, as I mentioned, everywhere you turn there's costs involved if you want to get into, the if you're either self-employed, or whatever it is that you need to have money as a buffer to cover all these costs. So in short, yes, there's many challenges. There's the residency documentation, compliance checks. They do a lot of compliance checks before they can actually grant it to you. The minimum balance requirements. There's a stricter approval process. Look, it's a very quick approval process, but they're very strict with that. So have you everything in order, and you can be done like within 24 hours. And yeah, so just as I said, try and engage with the PRO so that they will guide you through what is the latest procedure and the pros and cons and what needs to be done.
But with the documents, I think you do it via the digital way. You don't like do it all manually with the pen.
Yeah, everything is digitized. Like I mentioned to you,
Okay.
you even
Okay.
get your it's called the UAE pass. It's a little
Oh,
icon, it's like a thumbprint on your phone, and everything.
wow.
Your license, be it your NOC documents, be it
Hmm.
uh, a police clearance, everything is listed on that app, and you can pick it up at any time. And what's nice about the app, it can tell you how many times you've left the country, how many times you've had a traffic fine, whatever it is, everything is listed on that app.
Awesome. Lastly, what advice would you give to someone relocating to Dubai regarding choosing the right bank and insurance provider?
So I would say do a lot of homework. You can actually, the banks, they don't work like the banks in South Africa. They work till 11 at night. They work on a weekend,
Wow.
only on a Sunday. Yeah, only on a Sunday they're off. So go up to the banks, speak to the people, find out what is it that you need, according to your lifestyle that fits your preferences. So, they're very strong on the digital banking. They would advise you on the international transfers and multi currencies, etc. So, they would most of the major banks there includes like Emirates NBD and so forth. You get like the FAB, which is First Abu Dhabi Bank, and like HSBC, etc. So there's a lot of them that some of them are more for the locals, and some of them are cater for better for expats. So do your homework first, and like the minimum balance fees, especially if you're on the lower, excuse me, on the lower earning side, trying to maintain a minimum balance can be a little bit a tough stretch. So check
Mhm.
these things out. Some banks with certain bank accounts, they waiver that. They don't have the minimum balance. So these are the type of things that only you would know according to your earning capacity, how your living conditions, etc. And then also consider the banking needs of what the bank needs from you. And even when it comes to health insurance, check, compare the different networks, see what best suits you. And then also understand, when you exit, what are you in for? Don't come to the end and have a big fat surprise and say, oh, I didn't know this, because it can go against you. You can be deported, which you don't really want. So do your homework, get a PRO, or go personally into those various institutions and get advice from them.
Awesome. All I've got to say is thanks so much for your time, Tammy, and I'll check you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Love and light to all the listeners.
Awesome.